What's up, y'all? It's your girl, KISHSHANA, and we are back for another shot of vitamin K. Hold on, y'all ready? Okay, friends, so today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite things, as y'all know, not the Queenager, y'all. Teams. Yes, teams. But today I want to talk to my busy managers who are like, KISHSHANA, help me figure out how to be a great manager, but also able to do my work as an individual contributor too. So first up, thank y'all for hanging out with me because listen, when you get that promotion from being a kick-ass fill in the blank, so whether you're like the best district salesperson or you're the #1 fundraiser or you're the top engineer, whatever your function is, and you step into a management role, no one tells you that you move from the top of your game to the bottom, like instantly. It's sort of like oodles and noodles instant, okay? And you are going to need a different set of skills in order to be effective as a manager. But shoot, most of us still are on the hook for our own individual goals that we've got to meet. So now you got people tugging on you, people want your time, you're in endless meetings, and then you find yourself staying up day and night trying to do the work that you actually are being evaluated on in addition to managing your team to their outcomes. That's a heavy load. And so what I find all the time with my clients is folks come to me and they say, Kish, I'm stressed the hell out. I really want to do right by my folks, but I can't get my work done. You know, there's meetings that pop up on my calendar all the time. You know, I don't really know how to tell folks to shove off without telling them to shove off. How do I create boundaries so that I'm able to show up as my best self, but also get my work done? And so what I would say, number one, if you are in an executive seat watching this video right now, first of all, forward this to all your managers. Just go ahead. But this little tidbit is for you. Boundaries are your team members' way of protecting themselves and giving themselves space to be able to do their best work. As the employer, the company has to insert guardrails. So think about when you were learning to bowl, and I don't know about y'all, but everybody didn't just come out a fantastic bowler. Some of us had to get the guardrails up on two sides so that when the ball just bumped back and forward, you were able to still get your strike. Just me? No? Okay, it's fine. And so as a company, you've got to be able to put in the guardrails that protect your team's time and y'all, their sanity, because it helps your bottom line. Okay, I just wanted to give that as an aside. But back to the subject at hand. You are a manager and you want to be able to be a great manager and do a great job. And you are finding that you are pulled to and fro. So how do we avoid some common pitfalls that are plaguing your ability to be able to be a top performer, to learn all new skills, to step into managing people effectively and keep your sanity? And so there are a couple of things I want you to focus on now. If you've been hanging out with me in the KISHSHANAVERSE, you know I love threes. It's my favorite number. So here are 3 things that I want you to consider, and they're simple. Time, touch, and talent. You're like, really, Kish? We're just gonna break it down on that? Absolutely. So when you have a time challenge, and that's what's impeding your ability to be able to both manage effectively and to be able to do your work with excellence, you kind of feel a little time poor. There's not enough time in the day. You can't start early enough or end late enough. And so you end up not making time for your team or not making time for yourself, which I don't know which is worse in this occasion. I would say making time for yourself, because if you are well, then your team inadvertently will be well because you'll have more to give to them. Being time poor means that you don't get good at setting clear goals and that you don't have the space to give good feedback. Now imagine your team wants to connect with you. They want to be able to get some buy-in. We are in an age now where managers are really coaches and not just giving out directions and telling you where to go, how to get there, how fast to get there. And so if you're time poor and time is your challenge, That is what you're going to be up against. So here's how I think about the fix for not making enough time for your team. Number one, office hours. I said it, office hours. Even right now, if you are a distributed team, all remote, hybrid, in office, still tiptoeing in, it is possible for you as a manager to create office hours. You don't even have to call it that. They can just be open blocks on your calendar that are specifically set aside for your team to be able to drop in. And you hold those times sacrosanct so that other people do not impede on those times. And they can just say, work block, team time, do not schedule. But your team knows that if they have a problem, a challenge, etc., they can just pop you in the instant message and you'll be available to pop on a quick Zoom, hop on a quick Teams, hop on a Google Meet, and chit chat with them about whatever they've got going on in that time so that you are controlling your availability. Make sure that you have consistent one-on-one check-ins. Now, the cadence depends on the time that you're able to actually have that you can do well. So if you know that you can't do once a week times 20 staff members, because that's literally half your week, then maybe your check-ins are staggered so that you have check-ins once a week, but you might have 5 each week, and you have your team check-ins once a month. And you use that time to be able to really understand, take a temperature check of where your team is, what they need from you to be able to move their work forward, and not as a time to update activities. There are other communication and project management tools that you can employ to be able to give you time back that your organization can use. And here is where you're really gonna have to employ some emotional intelligence. You affect the people that are around you. And so if you're walking around just like kicking to and fro and you don't know you're up from you down, that is a problem. And so you are going to have to be able to really think about what that looks like for you to be plugged in and clued in to your team. And so then the next thing I want y'all to be thinking about is with your touch. And so for me, that is how often you are communicating with your team members, how much you have on hand with your time. Here's what it looks like when you are struggling in the touch area. You spend most of your day in meetings. Then what ends up happening is you send cryptic text messages, early AM emails. You're the one who sends emails at 1 in the morning, and then your team members wake up frantic. They're feeling crazy because the first thing they do is check their email. Their heart's already racing. You have a responsibility as a manager to ensure that you keep your team members steady. And all of us have pulled everybody off the rails, me included, where it feels like crisis mode every minute. If you have a problem with touch, that means you're pretty hands off and you leave your team to kind of fend for themselves. They just gonna have to figure it out. And there's a balance you have to create between giving your team members space to figure it out, but also being able to give enough direction to be able to set the parameters for success and to be able to come back and touch it again to make sure that they're good and they're bumping along and things are going well. That's important in your role. And then lastly, we know that you are struggling with the touch aspect when you just do things yourself when there's a big project or task because you can't be bothered with it because giving it to people is just a whole nother headache. Y'all, that's a struggle city. I struggle with that. And so that's a big one on the amount of touch you have, the time on task with your team. And so that what ends up happening is you're barely above water on any given day. And I know that that is struggle city. So here's how I want you to think about tackling the touch aspect if touch is your challenge. Delegate, don't dictate. So really being able to assess what on the list of things are you best designed to do. They have the highest usage of your time. They're going to yield the greatest results. And then what are the things that are best suited for another team member to do and give them the space to do it. They may not do it the way you want to do it. And y'all, I struggle with that. But you've got to be able to give folks space to be able to get the work done, which means you need to establish clear responsibilities and roles and build in step back so that you can continue again to pressure test how are things going. You've got to be able to address the different communication styles. So there are some team members who they love to talk via text, others via Slack, others via IM, others via video, others via phone. You've got to be able to identify with your team what is your preferred mode of communication when things are not urgent, when things are urgent, when it's just an FYI, etc. So that you get your team into that cadence and you're meeting them also where they're at, which means if you're meeting them where they're at, that gives you a greater opportunity to be able to listen in keenly. And then the last thing on touch, if touch is your challenge, I want you to think about is getting off the DIY hamster wheel. Guilty as charged. And so when I was thinking about this and having to get in there with clients and work this through, it showed all my bits and my pieces. I had to go and fix it, y'all, which means you have to give guidance versus direction. And so giving the parameters of success, being able to show examples of the ways in which you've been able to get something done or how things have looked when they're completed gives that team member sort of like a mark they can strike toward, but it doesn't necessarily dictate first step A, then step B. Now that's different from when you have SOPs. So when you have standard operating procedures about how certain things are to be done, that's one thing. But you don't have to dictate the how of every single process that your team member decides to do, particularly if you are delegating well. In order to be able to delegate well, you have to have clear systems and structures in place. So wind back a couple of minutes when I talked about making sure you have the project management tools that your organization uses in full, the communication tools that knit together with those project management tools. If you're in a sales capacity, making sure that you have a CRM, a customer relationship management system that allows you to be able to have those exchanges. All of those things are super important to be able to move things along. So it lowers your stress because you shift the locus of control. Now, for all my control freaks out there, I'm calling you that because I'm calling myself that. It's okay to let go of control, okay? I'll hold you. I'll make you feel warm and safe. Let go. Let it go. Let go. When you let go of that locus of control, when everything doesn't feel like it has to be on you, it gives you space to then be able to step back and see where do you need to be able to touch something, where do you need to give advice, where do you need to step in, where do you need to let's see how it turns out, and allow your team members an opportunity to flex and grow. Okay, so my last one. When your challenge is talent, here's how it looks. You don't trust your people really, but here's how it looks. Oftentimes, all of your team members, all your team meetings have to be in person because you're not recruiting the right team. You have a challenge with trust and you misunderstand your team motivation. Okay, so let me roll that back. So you're not recruiting the right team. You are building trust, a little bit of a struggle bus, and you are misunderstanding your team motivation. So you have to have team meetings in person. FaceTime is very important. Time on task. There's an overflow of projects and reports and spreadsheets and memos. There's a plaguing vacancy on your team all the time. You are managing multiple projects, campaigns. It just feels like all the things. And you then are also leading multiple projects. Whew, y'all, you exhausted? I'm so exhausted. I'm exhausted. If that is your challenge, friends, here are some things I want you to think about so that you can address your talent fix. Number one, recruit the right team, friends, okay? Don't rush the process. Kick unbiased hiring to the curb. Quit relying so much on references and don't expect too much too soon. If you're like, wait, Kish, stop, I need more on that. I want you to go on over to my series on how to hire the right team, and I'll walk you through that in detail. When you think about building trust, I want you to focus on outcomes, not just outputs, not just the activities. I want you to focus on connecting regularly, and y'all, check your ego at the door. Okay, some of us are walking around here, well, when I was in this position, I'm guilty of it, okay? So constantly having to be like, listen, girl, check yourself, because I am quick to be like, when I was in this position, and you don't want to do that. It's not about your ego. Last, but definitely not least, misunderstanding your team's motivation. So I want you to be able to check assumptions about why people work where they work, why they're on your team, why they show up every day, if they're trying to get a check, if this is their life's work. Check all of your assumptions because you actually don't know where folks really are in this season of their life, and that changes. Eliminate dissatisfaction by having those touch points. For me, it's the 5 love languages and some really good check-in conversations and building personal relationships. Those are super critical to me in order to be able to eliminate dissatisfaction, understanding people's why. Personalize your approach. Again, it is not a one-size-fits-all cookie cutter approach to management. You don't work that way, and neither do other people. And then model what you expect. If you want people to take time for themselves, you've got to do it. If you want people to be measured in the way that they approach their work, you've got to do it. If you are bumping into the wall like a chicken with your head cut off, guess who's going to do it? Your team. And you are responsible for ensuring that your team doesn't function that way. Less stress for them means less stress for you, means more time for you to do your work and more time for them to excel in theirs. And we move along down the road in a beautiful song. Sounds easy, right? It's not, y'all. It's hard as hell, okay? But if you follow these steps, depending on your challenge, if your challenge is time, your challenge is touch, or your challenge is talent, then I know you'll be able to make headway on being able to find time to be a great manager and also get your stuff done. Okay, y'all, if what I said resonated with you today, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this channel so you can be the first to know when we have a new episode. All right, y'all, I'm out of here. Be well and stay tuned for another shot of vitamin K.